This was once considered one of the most dangerous places in the world. From the late 80s to the mid-thousands, violence there reached levels that seemed irreversible. Armed groups, cartels, and militias fought over territory. The homicide rate was so high that the name of this place was consistently among the worst rankings on the planet. But in recent years, the unthinkable has happened. Crime has plummeted by more than 80%. The name that once caused fear now appears on lists of innovation, sustainability, and quality of life. It has won the title of Place of the Year by the Wall Street Journal and attracted the spotlight from around the world. And no, we're not talking about El Salvador, nor Bukele. Today, Bello Mundo takes you on a journey to discover the most surprising curiosities of Medellin, a place that went from panic to reinvention, but still holds stories you've never heard before. Number 1. Location and general information. On maps, Medellin looks like just another city squeezed between mountains in northwestern Colombia. But in person, the feeling is quite different. The city grows in the middle of the Aburrá Valley, an elongated area surrounded by the Andes, the longest mountain range on the planet. The terrain forms almost a green bowl, and most of the neighborhoods climb up the slopes, as if the city were always trying to gain height. It is in this setting that Medellin has developed. The city officially has just over 2,400,000 inhabitants. But that number alone does not tell the whole story. Medellin does not function in isolation. Around it are several cities close to each other, sharing transportation, jobs, commerce, and daily life. Together, they form the so-called Aburrá Valley Metropolitan Area. When this whole group is included, the population easily exceeds 4 million people. But in practice, everything works in an integrated way, like a large, continuous urban region. No one goes about their daily lives thinking about where one city ends and another begins. To understand this better, we can make a simple comparison. In the United States, the logic is similar in the San Francisco Bay Area. San Francisco, Oakland, and San Jose are independent municipalities, but they are connected by infrastructure, economy, and culture. Another point that often surprises newcomers is the climate. As the region is about 4,900 feet above sea level, the city completely escapes the image of a Colombia that is always hot and humid. Even on sunny days, the temperature usually stays around 71.6 degrees Fahrenheit, with little variation throughout the year. No excessive heat, no intense cold. That is why the nickname stuck and has been passed down through generations, City of Eternal Spring. But Medellin is not just about pleasant weather and beautiful scenery. One of the city's most striking features is its contrast. On the one hand, there are modern skyscrapers, universities with cutting-edge technology, and innovation hubs. On the other, there are entire communities built on steep slopes, with colorful houses stacked up the hillside, cable cars crossing the sky, and tourists observing everything from above. Today, this scenario conveys a sense of an organized and welcoming city. But this image is recent. For a long time, this place was known for very different reasons, which we will talk about now. Number 2. History. Until recently, Medellin was known as one of the most dangerous places in the world. But, contrary to what it has become, it was not born that way. Quite the opposite. Founded on March 2, 1616, the city began as an agricultural settlement. It went through several names before taking on its current one, among them Aburrá de los Llanos, San Lorenzo de Aburrá, and La Candelaria de Medellin. The definitive name came from a city in Spain called Metellinum in the Extremadura region. For a long time, the municipality was just a regional center. The economy revolved around farms, local commerce, and later the textile industry. The leap came in the 20th century when it became the economic hub of the Department of Antioquia. It was then that factories, universities, banks, and a business elite transformed the place into one of the engines of modern Colombia. But the geography that helped its growth also attracted another kind of attention. The city is nestled in a strategic valley, with routes connecting the interior to the Caribbean and the border with Panama. When drug trafficking exploded in the 1970s and 80s, this structure was already in place. Roads, abundant urban labor, growing social inequality, and entire neighborhoods virtually absent from the presence of the state formed fertile ground for the expansion of criminal organizations. These groups did not emerge in isolation. They blended into everyday urban life, using banks, front companies, working-class neighborhoods, and even public works as part of a system that grew too fast to be contained early on. The result was the rapid rise of criminal groups, which infiltrated all levels of the city. In 1991, Medellin earned the title of the most violent city in the world. In addition to drug trafficking, it faced the Colombian armed conflict, with guerrillas, paramilitaries, and state forces fighting over territory, especially in the poorest communities. But the turnaround began in the 2000s, when a new model of social urbanism came on the scene, focusing on inclusion, public transportation, education, and the presence of the state where it had not previously reached. Today, Medellin is undoubtedly the most innovative city. Considered one of the best cities to live in South America, it is hard to believe that its past was so violent. However, to understand how the city got to where it is today, we need to go back a little, because you can't talk about the history of Medellin without mentioning the man who became the most famous and most distorted face of that entire era. Number 3. Pablo Escobar. If there is one name that is impossible to ignore in the city's recent history, it is Pablo Escobar. He was born in Rio Negro, in the interior of the Department of Antioquia. But it was in Medellin that he decided to build his empire. As we have already seen, the geography and structure of the region created the perfect terrain for this. Escobar started with contraband, first cigarettes, then electronics, until he got into cocaine. When he realized the substance's potential in the American market, he created an export network with micro-aircraft, farms, hidden laboratories, and clandestine airstrips. The base of the operation was urban. It was in the city that he laundered money, organized logistics, and took care of his image. And when it comes to image, it is impossible to ignore the Monaco building. The building had 8 floors, was built in the 80s in El Poblado, one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in the city, and was fenced, armored, and full of luxury. It served as the organization's headquarters. But Escobar didn't want to be just feared, he wanted to be adored. So he financed soccer fields, donated money to needy families, built schools, and even built an entire neighborhood of low-income housing. The official name was Medellin without slums, but to this day the place is known as Barrio Pablo Escobar, a neighborhood where many people live with the dilemma of being grateful for housing and remembering the price the city paid. During the 80s, Medellin became a war zone. Escobar confronted the government, the police, the press, judges, and politicians. He ordered the elimination of anyone who crossed his path. There were bombs, silences, closed schools, entire neighborhoods in silence. But the net was closing in. In 1991, Escobar decided to turn himself in, but he imposed the condition that he would not be extradited. The government accepted, and the result was one of the greatest absurdities in history, a custom-built prison built just for him. The name was ironic, La Catedral. It had a game room, barbecue grill, soccer field, suite with a hot tub, and a direct phone line so he could continue running everything. But the charade didn't last. When the government realized he was still operating from inside the prison, they tried to transfer him. What did he do? Obviously, he escaped. The biggest manhunt in Colombian history began. On December 2, 1993, he was found in a residential neighborhood. He tried to escape across the rooftops, but was surrounded and died right there, on the third floor of an ordinary house, overlooking the city he had controlled for years. Today, the place has become a morbid pilgrimage site for tourists. But Medellin grew tired of this image. In 2019, the city demolished the Monaco building, which for decades symbolized his power. In its place, the Inflexion Memorial Park was created to remember the victims of the attacks and to say loud and clear that Medellin no longer wants to be known as the backyard of a criminal. But that wasn't all. Number 4. The turnaround. After Escobar's fall, the city was left with a huge problem. Violence did not disappear overnight, drug trafficking continued, and inequality remained evident on the slopes of the Aburrá Valley. The difference was that, after decades, it was possible to discuss the future without someone with a gun ruling over the state. It was in this scenario that the public authorities chose an unusual path. Instead of concentrating investment in the center or in wealthy areas, the city government started with the hills, precisely where the cartel recruited and exercised power. The idea came from a simple realization. The problem was not just security. It was time. Living high up meant losing hours to get to work, school, or basic services. Shortening this commute became a priority and changed the logic of the city. The transformation gained momentum in the 2000s with an urban planning model focused on inclusion. That is how the park libraries came about. These are cultural centers built in vulnerable neighborhoods, designed to function as meeting places, study centers, and places of belonging. These places helped reorganize the daily lives of entire communities. Another decisive change was the metro cable, a cable car system integrated with the subway, created to connect the hillsides to the rest of the city. The first line, inaugurated in 2004, transformed life in the Santo Domingo neighborhood. A journey that used to take over an hour now takes just a few minutes. None of this would have worked without the subway. It connects the city, works really well, and has become a source of local pride. Of course, this turnaround did not solve everything, but it changed the logic. The hill was no longer isolated and became part of the living city. And that is what opened the way for Medellin to begin to be seen in a different light. And it is exactly this other side that we are going to get to know now. Number 5. Places, curiosities, and legends. In addition to the cable car, a good way to start this trip is in the center, where one of the most peculiar streets in the world is located. Did you know that Medellin has one of the shortest avenues in the world? It is located in the city center near Parque de las Luces, in a historic area where many people pass by every day without noticing it. This avenue connects two streets called 44A and 44B. The stretch is so short that you can cross it in a few steps. In the middle of it are two historic buildings known as Carre and Vasquez, built at the end of the 19th century. Another unusual spot is in Sabaneta, in the Medellin metropolitan area. A replica of the Eiffel Tower, approximately 164 feet high, was built there. The structure is part of a condominium called Paris, whose buildings follow an architectural style inspired by French neighborhoods. The tower has become a local tourist attraction, often used as a backdrop for photos of couples and events. In addition to Paris, there are other neighborhoods inspired by places such as North America, including Hollywood-style signs. Further north, in the neighboring municipality of Bello, a sign with the word North America was installed on a hill and can be seen from a distance by those passing through the region. Medellin also has a real castle with towers, stained glass windows, and geometric gardens. The Museo El Castillo was built in the 30s, inspired by the castles of the Loire Valley in France. The last owner was Diego Echevarria Misas, a textile businessman who was kidnapped and killed in 1971. After the tragedy, his wife turned the castle into a museum. Since then, rumors have begun. The best-known legend says that the body of the couple's daughter, who died as a child, was embalmed and kept in one of the castle's rooms. The museum has never confirmed this, but the story spread and is now part of popular imagination. And finally, a story that mixes religion, war, and frustration. At the Church of La Vera Cruz in downtown Medellin, one of the largest bells was removed and melted down to make a cannon, in an attempt to arm local forces against the Spanish reconquest in the 19th century. But the plan failed. The invaders came from another direction, and the sacrifice of the bell only served to fuel another tragic legend of the city. Number 6. Art everywhere. In addition to curious places and strange legends, there is one more thing that draws attention in Medellin. Walking around the city is like walking through an open-air museum. There are more than 400 sculptures scattered across sidewalks, squares, stations, and parks. There, art has become part of everyday life. This was no accident. After the urban transformation of the 2000s, the city government began to use art as a way to symbolically occupy spaces. Where there was once abandonment, today there are monuments. Where there was fear, now there are sculptures. The best example of this is Plaza Botero, right in the city center. There are 23 sculptures created by Fernando Botero, Colombia's most famous artist. All were donated by him on one condition. They had to be outdoors, accessible to anyone, and that's what happened. The works are in front of the Museum of Antioquia, surrounded by historic buildings. The round, expressive bodies have become a symbol of the city. Children climb on the sculptures, tourists take photos, and residents pass by every day. The curious thing is that the art there is not protected by security. It is protected by circulation. It is the constant presence of people that prevents neglect and vandalism. Number 7. Gastronomy. No trip is complete without food, and Medellin knows exactly how to make any visitor's stomach happy. Here, the cuisine is heavy, full of flavor, and without any concern for diet. The city's most famous dish is called bandeja paisa, a complete meal that delivers almost everything the body needs, and then some. Just to give you an idea, the traditional bandeja paisa easily reaches 1,800 calories. That's basically what an adult needs in a whole day. But when the dish arrives at the table, no one thinks about that. The smell, the combination of textures, and the abundance of food speak louder. The most common version includes white rice, cooked beans, ground beef, crispy pork rinds, chorizo sausage, fried egg, ripe plantain, sliced avocado, and an arepa, which is a type of corn cake very common in Colombia. In some homes, you can swap the ground beef for grilled steak or roasted pork. And many people prepare the beans and meat the day before to make it easier. And since we're talking about excesses, here's a warning for those who want to toast. In Medellin and the surrounding region, you don't drink just anything. The local drink is called aguardiente antioqueño. It is made with pure sugarcane alcohol and contains anise essence to give it that unmistakable flavor. It is sweet, warm, and hits you hard. For many people here, it makes no sense to drink any other type of distilled spirit. So don't even think about showing up with a competing brand. It's almost an offense. Number 8. Festivals and celebrations. Remember how we said at the beginning that Medellin is known as the city of eternal spring? Well, it is. If there's a time when this is most evident, it's during the popular festivals. The most famous celebration of all takes place in August. And it's not just any party, it's the Flower Festival, the event that brings the whole city to life and has become a symbol of local identity. During the festival, Medellin seems to change dimensions. There are more than 140 events taking place in different parts of the city. There's a Trova festival with improvised singing battles. There is a parade of vintage cars. There is a national horse fair. And there is music, orchestra, dance, and a lot going on at the same time. But the ultimate symbol of the festival is the Silateros parade. Farmers from the region carry huge handmade floral structures on their backs, some weighing dozens of pounds. These silatas are not just decoration. They represent a tradition that dates back to the early 20th century, when rural producers carried flowers and goods on their backs to the city center. The festival, officially created more than 6 decades ago, ended up becoming a direct tribute to this history and to those who built Medellin far from the asphalt. And when December arrives, the city transforms again. Christmas here is anything but discreet. Medellin is considered one of the most impressive Christmas capitals in Latin America. There are more than 30 million LED lights illuminating parks, avenues, squares, and the entire bank of the Medellin River. The lights are not just decorative. They form more than 40,000 different figures. There are giant panels, tunnels of light, illuminated sculptures, and themes that change every year. The scenery changes from year to year, but the scale remains absurd. People from all over the country and even from abroad come just to see this spectacle. Hotels are packed and streets become a catwalk for entire families. And many people make it a year-end tradition. But the parties are not the only traditions. Number 9. Soccer and tango. The parties are just one of the many traditions that endure in Medellin. Another great passion of the city is soccer. And when I say passion, I'm not exaggerating. Soccer here is more than a sport. It's a language, a reason to get together, a form of identity. Medellin is one of the most soccer-crazy cities in Colombia. Young and old gather to watch games, comment on lineups, and discuss controversial plays. But the only time this city is truly divided is when the classic match arrives. Atlético Nacional against Deportivo Independiente Medellin. It's the famous Clásico Paisa. And on that day, there's no conversation. Everyone wears their team's jersey and defends it tooth and nail. But if you think Medellin only lives for soccer, you're wrong. There is another passion that speaks louder in some corners of the city. Tango. And it's no exaggeration to say that you hear more tango here than in Buenos Aires. The relationship between Medellin and tango became even stronger after a tragic episode. In 1935, the plane carrying Carlos Gardel crashed shortly after taking off from Olaya Herrera Airport. The city came to a standstill. Gardel was a living legend, and his death became a definitive chapter in local history. It is said that the accident was caused by a dispute between two pilots. The day before, a German aviator had flown over a Colombian aircraft in a provocative manner. The next day, the Colombian pilot tried to retaliate. The maneuver failed, the planes collided, and Gardel died there before even leaving Medellin. The body was temporarily buried in the San Pedro Cemetery. Only months later did the repatriation process begin. It took more than 50 days for the remains to reach Argentina, passing through New York. on a journey that would be unthinkable today. After that, tango never left the imagination of Medellin. It spread through radio stations, bars, squares, and even dance schools. Today, the rhythm is so present in everyday life that it has become another symbol of the city. And that says a lot about how Medellin transforms even pain into culture. See how the city is not just about Escobar? And now we want to know from you. Which of these curiosities surprised you the most? Tell us here in the comments. And if you liked the video, leave a like, subscribe to the Bello Mundo channel, activate the bell, and share it with those who love to travel without leaving the couch. If you want to give us some extra support, use the HAPPIEST feature. That way you help the channel continue to bring you stories that almost never appear in tourist guides. Thank you for staying with us until the end. See you on our next adventures.